Joining me now is the aforementioned Mandela Barnes, current Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor, Democratic Senate nominee, facing off against the Senator Ron Johnson. Mr. Barnes, good to see you again. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time as always. I'm a little puzzled, as you can tell from the tone in my voice, about this. I want to play a soundbite from your opponent telling NBC News about whether he would accept Tuesday's result.
Do you commit to accepting the results of Tuesday's election?
We have in place a lot of observers, we have a lot of poll workers, and our whole purpose was to restore confidence in our election system. I sure hope I can, but I can't predict what the Democrats might have planned.
It's a lot of BS. There wasn't a problem with confidence in the voting system before people like Ron Johnson, following Donald Trump's lead about the big lie, started talk about that. I just did a whole statistical layout about voter fraud in America. It wouldn't have moved a needle anywhere in any election in this country. So Ron Johnson is now painting himself as the protector of voting in America, when in fact there is no meaningful threat.
Well, he's the biggest hypocrite out there. I mean, this is the person who tried to overturn a free and fair election. He's participated in destabilizing our election integrity and electoral systems, trying to send fraudulent electors, as you mentioned. You know, it is very rich coming from a person who tried to ultimately change the course of this country because he didn't get the election result that he wanted in 2020. But it just goes to show you just how low he'll go. That's who he's been for the last 12 years. Many people may have thought he was some sensible, moderate Republican for a while, but that was never the case. He's always been this way, a person who's looked out for himself, the interests of special interests, and his own self-interest. Like, this is a person who has left working people in this state behind every step of the way. He is a danger and a threat to our democracy. And in a few days, we have a real opportunity to get rid of him, but it won't happen unless folks help us out at MandelaBarnes.com.
So the question is, people know him. He's been around for 12 years in statewide office. But you also hold statewide office. You're the lieutenant governor. You're well known by virtue of the fact that you're only the second, I think, statewide official, black statewide official in the history of Wisconsin, right? So you're in the news. People talk about you. Why are you not able to penetrate that? What's going on that this is a toss-up?
Well, I'll tell you, races in this state are always close. Our last 3 November elections were decided by 30,000 votes or fewer. So, you know, people have to fight for every single inch here. We're not taking a single thing for granted. Coming into this race, we knew it would be tough. And we knew that Ron Johnson being, you know, the worst senator serving right now, our worst senator since Joe McCarthy, we knew that that wasn't going to be enough for us to get over the hump. It was important for us to do everything we could to show up in as many places as possible across state. And that's what we're doing. We're on our Win for Wisconsin RV tour. We had 100 stops planned for 15 days. We hit those 100 stops a little bit earlier. So that gives us some breathing room to go to even more places, to talk to young folks, to talk to our family farmers, our small business owners. We're going to do some plant gates. We're showing up and leaving no single community behind, not taking a single community for granted. Any vote we take for granted is a vote we're going to lose, and we're not willing to lose a single one.
So let me ask you this. There are obviously some people who back the big lie and Ron Johnson. They'll go vote for him. There are a lot of people who back you and are very worried about democracy, and they're going to come out to vote for you. But this is a midterm election. There are a whole bunch of people who aren't going to turn out. And on Wednesday morning or whenever your race is decided, who knows, might take a couple of days, they might be very surprised. They might not like the outcome. What's your message to them? Because they're just people who don't get motivated to come out in midterm elections.
I'll tell you, none of us want us to wake up on November 9th and think, what else could we have done? When we have a person like Ron Johnson, again, who has shown where he's willing to take it when it comes to our democracy, and he's shown us what he will do for another 6 years, because what he's done for the last 12 years is absolutely nothing for the rest of us. Think about the fact that Social Security is on the line. We're talking about a person where Rick Scott said it should be reauthorized every 5 years. Ron Johnson said, no, that's not enough. We should reauthorize it every year. He is coming after the hard-earned benefits that people work their entire lives for, the right to make your own healthcare decisions. He told the women of this state, if they don't like the laws, like our 1849 criminal abortion ban, then they can just move. This is a person who's unfit to represent us. This is a person who has a real contempt for working people, a real contempt for women, and and has absolutely abdicated his responsibility to show up and deliver for the people of Wisconsin, especially those who've had it the hardest. And over the course of this pandemic, Ron Johnson was nowhere to be found when our small businesses were struggling, when our family farmers were in disarray and supply chains were broken. Ron Johnson left us behind, and we were stuck cleaning up the mess that he refused to help us out with.
So when you're going around the state, you and I have talked about democratic issues, you and I mean large democracy issues, you and I have talked about cultural issues that we just mentioned, and there's a lot of concern about economic issues. What do people ask you when you're out there? You've been going to all these counties. What's the biggest concern on people's minds?
Well, people certainly are asking about, how can they get more money in their pockets? How can we make life, a little bit more stable by bringing affordability back into the picture, which Ron Johnson has not been concerned with. We're looking at oil and gas companies that are making record profits, large grocery store chains making record profits, yet they're charging us record amounts at the checkout line and at the gas pump. We need leaders who are actually going to stand up to special interests and tell them enough is enough. You got to stop using inflation as a smokescreen to get over on everyday working people. It's not fair how the deck has been stacked against us. And we also need to build more things here. I come from a long line of people who worked in manufacturing. My granddad worked in a factory after he returned from World War II. He walked in one day, walked out 35 years later. That was a ticket to the middle class for us. But the jobs that my granddad had back then, his ticket to the middle class, his path to the middle class is seemingly more easy than it is for people in my generation. Mm-hmm. That's a dynamic we have to fix. And Ron Johnson was so audacious as to say that we have enough jobs in Wisconsin. He said, why build things here when you can make them in China for dirt cheap? He has sold us out every step away. These aren't just jobs. We're talking about opportunities for families to put food on the table, opportunities for children to live happy, healthy, productive lives, to be able to get a fair shot at the American dream. We'll never get that fair shot with Ron Johnson as a U.S. Senator.
Mandela Barnes, good to see you. Thanks, as always, for joining us. The Democratic Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes. He's the state's Democratic nominee for the United States Senate.